Guys, hello. Today I wanted to do a video on an update of this cap design that I made to fix Anycubic's auto-feeding problem. Now I'll show you the problem. There's two problems with this. So this is the one that I released, and look, this just snaps off. So the problem is that snaps off. So I don't really want to change the thickness because it's good as it is. If you print with ABS-like resin, it's gonna be great material. However, I made a little enforcement to keep these tubes from twisting. I made these little things that would prevent them from being twisted here, because twisted or bent in any direction, because these are rather thin and they have to be thin so that the tube fits over them. If you go any bigger than that, it's gonna struggle to fit over them. I did notice that there was some leaking where the screws were, and I was using M3 screws, and they were going into these areas here and here. Since I was screwing them into the thread of the printed cap, the thread gets loose because it's resin, and M3 isn't exactly a very large, deep thread. So what I've done was, as I cut out these holes to be flush and not threaded anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to use M4 bolts instead, and M4 nuts, so that we can actually twist them together. But we don't need to go over the top either, because what I designed as well is a little gasket. So we're going to have these bolts go through here, and this is printed in FDM printer TPU, so there's rubber. The point of using rubber with this was that we make a nice squish contact. So let's get this in place. So these two are meant for these holes basically, where the tubes go in, and I'm going to have the smooth side facing up, and I'm going to push this into position, into the as deep as it goes. So I'll use this screwdriver and like an Allen key, that's an Allen key attachment. I'm just pushing it in all the way. That feels pretty good, as deep as it goes, nice and flush. And I want the bolt to be sticking out at the bottom, because these two bolts making contact with the resin is what passes the current through each of them. So the nuts, I would like to place the nut inside. I've got myself a little screwdriver with the correct Allen key bit. So if we look here, it's going through the gasket. But before I start screwing it any further, let's put the nut on. Now it's going to be a bit awkward here, and if you prefer, you could put it on the other side so that the nut is facing the top side, but I want to try it like this. By the way, guys, I'm not scripting this video, so I'm just improvising what I'm saying, so excuse me, just dribbling with my words sometimes. See what I mean? Quite awkward, especially with the first few turns. Not sure how to hold it. Just try that. Nope, nothing's going in. Hold on a second. Actually, let's get this in a bit further. I'm not going to tighten it just yet, because remember, we need wires connecting, and it's going to connect to the printer. Rather awkward. But yeah, I moved on to this design because, well, it makes perfect sense, to be honest, with a gasket, a rubber seal. That way there's no way that water or resin can go through. This is difficult. There we go. Okay, now it's in there. I can hold it, and now I can turn it. Much better. Right, not too tight just now. I'll do the other side as well. But it's gonna look, and it's gonna do its job much better. nut. There we go. Now, obviously it's loose at the moment. There is a reason for that. I'll get to that in a minute. So before we do that, so I want to put these tubes in. They shouldn't get in the way of these because we're going to have to use them. So pump. Comes from the pump and then goes into the vat. Which way do I want it? I want it from the pump, I think. To see if the pump, let me remind myself where it goes. It's from the pump into this. And then, yeah, so this would, the pump, that would just be clear air. However, going to the vat, that's where the resin will go. So I want it clear here. So I want the clear tube on the vat side of the cap. So you see it says vat, I'm putting the clear tube. But this is optional. It depends where you want to go, where you want to put it in. It's a bit actually difficult to put this on. So I might have a gentle squeeze. Ow. Okay, it's a bit harder to put on. I remember. What is going on? Maybe I should put some lubricant on it so it goes in easier. But what would I put on there to make it slide over? But yeah, funnily enough, there's no leaking coming through these pieces. I mean, this is just friction. But basically the point is, you see, if we do this, it doesn't mess around with the fin connectors here. But I want to go further. It's a bit tricky. God, I don't remember it being this difficult to put over it. Okay, we're nearly there, Funny video making this, pushing tubes, other things. The point is, yeah, it's not gonna break now. Because it did break, but now it went. Okay, I think that's good enough. So now we can get onto the connector. And this was for the M3 screws. I'm gonna have to use M4, so I got these. I think they're terminal forks. I think that's what they're called, terminal forks. And this will fit over these, and then we're gonna screw them in place. So how do I want them? Do I want them going to one side? So the cable goes up, perhaps? Okay, so I have quite a lengthy cable, because what I'm also doing this time is I'm extending it, because I would like to put the bottle drip around 2 printers down, because I'm a bit limited for space in that area. So I'm extending it just a slight bit, not too much. So how far do I want this to go? Maybe I want this cable to go through one of these. No, because that would squish it, so definitely not. It would be nice if maybe it went through the middle. How about that? So I would like it to be something like maybe that. Okay. So let's strip it. Strip the cable. There we go. And let's see where that would end up. I think I'll bend it as well. Need to go a bit further. And I want them exactly the same length. That. You know, these aren't even that necessary. You could just tie it around, but since I want even pressure, I am going to go the extra mile and just solder it together. Actually, before I do any soldering, I'm going to bend this now. So can I do it by hand? Like that, 90 degrees. So that basically is gonna go like that. And now we can squish it in place and then I'll solder it. Oh, this is actually quite tough. I might need larger pliers. I need larger pliers. Okay, that's good. We have the wire. Go to the side. Now that it's to the side, I'm going to solder just the area that is going to the side. But I'm not going to until I put something on the floor, because I do not want to solder this floor. I made that experience with my previous floor and I do not want to damage this one. Yep, not too much. That's all I want, just a little bit, just to hold the wire in place and so that it doesn't come off the terminal fork. Same to this side. Oh. Okay, that's good enough, but now we need to solder it in place as well. By the way, you don't have to do this. No, actually you do, because we are going up from M3 to M4, or you could just drill this slightly larger with an M4 drill bit. I know it's rather excessive for such a silly feature, but to be honest, the kind of point of the Photon M3 Plus is the size, and when you're using that much volume, it's going to take up more resin. So it's quite an important feature in my opinion. Okay, so that's soldered. You can solder soldering iron off, and let's connect it to that. So this is an easy part, but I want to have it apart like that, so that it's kind of nice and centered as it sits over there. You can push it to one side as well. Looks very nice and tidy. And whilst you're tightening it, I'm going to tighten from the top. I'm going to use these mini pliers from one side to hold the nut in place. Now don't go overboard either, so because although we're pushing that gasket washer and making a nice squish, okay, that looks good, but I'm not sure if I tightened it enough, so let's tighten it, because I was fixated on the positioning of the terminal fork rather than the tightness. But now I think we're at a very good point where there's not really a possibility for leakage. There we go, that's good. And as a last thing, I'm going to be extending these two hoses because I want to put the drip on the other side of the printer with another printer being in the way. So basically, yeah, just extending it. So I also designed these 4 little pieces, well 2 little pieces, and they're duplicates. And all we need to do basically is push them together, and then I'm going to have that on top. And I'm going to have this on top of this because this is rather thin. Although this is printed in ABS-like resin, it is capable of breaking. So before we do that, let's put this in first, and same with this one. Then what we can do is push this in all the way. We've got a little notch here, so it will stop it because we don't want to go all the way with it. There we go. And with the other side as well. Now the width of this is the exact same as the width of this, but the thickness of the actual shell is rather thin, which is why we're going to reinforce it. Well, let's get them adjoined first. So here we go, we have it extended, and same with the black piece. That's done. And now I think I do want super glue, but basically what we're going to do is shove this over both of them. It's a bit of a tight fit, but the expansion, the internal width of it should be just right. Or should I print another slightly thicker? You know what, I'm going to leave it like that as it is. And hold on a second. Now I'm pulling on this one because as you pull it, it contracts. You can see it's going in quite easier. But I don't want to squish this area because I don't want to deform the piece. There we go, it's through both of them now. Whilst it's not through this yet. So let's keep on going a bit further with this. There we go. So now this is much safer than it would be with a single little tube. I'm going to cut off less than I think I'll need, if that makes sense, because if it turns out I need more, I'll have a bit of excess. So I'm basically leaving some excess. I'm assuming I'll need around this much, but I'm leaving some excess because when I actually connect it, I don't want to be too short. And for the wire, this can be even shorter because this connector wire is at the around in the middle of the printer. Okay, so I may not have the exact same amount of pins here, but I'll reuse this, and instead I'll disconnect two of these wires because the pins are exactly the same. So let's cut off one end and do that. Just pull the pin off. Not off, push the pin in, then it comes out, see? And I'll do the same for the red. There we go. And I can just reuse them. But first of all, I need to solder them on properly, so let's get to soldering again, because I messed this up the first time. But before we do that, we can do a little test to see if it actually functions the way it should with my voltmeter. So I'm going to set my voltmeter to a continuity test. And all it's going to be doing is pass a current through each one, and once they touch, they make a sound. So I'm going to clip the red to the red and the black to the black whilst they're separate here. Keep them separate. But at the cap side, let's see what happens if they're bridged. Let's try it with scissors. I'm not sure if scissors pass the current through. Yep, they do. But basically, when resin touches both of them, the current is passed and you can hear it beep. So it does what it's supposed to do, basically. So now that we've confirmed that, we can reconnect those pins into the three, not this one, this is the four slotted one. This is the one that I kind of removed the wire from. So let's remove this, disconnect the pin. Okay, and remember the orientation, so face down. There we go. They are both out. You can reconnect the pins so they are pointing downwards. Down. Actually, before we do that, you prop the back of them up. There's a slight metal piece here that holds, it's like a clip, holds it in place from the connector from coming out. Yep, we shove it in there now. One is in and so is the other one. There we go, they're both in now. So now let's just insulate the black wire. Actually should have done it before I put that in there, because now it's harder to insulate it. Okay, let's remove it then. Making it more difficult for myself. That's good. We can go back in now. Wait, get the clip back up. Being careful. snap it. Back in it goes, and just give it a little test that it doesn't come back out and it feels good. That's fine. I'm going to put some more insulation on top. Not that it's necessary, just to neaten things up. So I've got the cap connected here, and basically I wanted it to the right of these two printers. So on the right here, I didn't want it on the left what I got on the FDM printer. So we've got it here, and we've got a bottle full of resin, and we've got my upside down drip. So let's undo this, and just for testing, I'm going to continue testing it like this until I have like 10 solid prints without any leaks that have been using the auto feed function. So upside down cap, place it in here, and I'm going to rotate the bottle until the gasket and the cap does its job, and I think it's nice and tight. It's pretty good. And I can test it upside down. Looks fine to me. Okay, so let's try it here. Upside down. All this over the top engineering. There we go. And I can leave it like that. Just make sure that there is no kinks in the tubes, because if there's a kink, you can't push the liquids through. But basically, I'm just going to leave it like that. Does the job.